guys, welcome back to the show. I have an incredible woman on the podcast today. She is my friend. We have been friends for a very long time and an amazing co-star from Love is Blind. I want to welcome to the show, Miss Jessica Batten. Hi.
Hi, Cal. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited.
I'm so excited for you. I'm proud of you that you're launching this podcast. How
Thanks,
exciting.
girl. Thank you. Yeah, I literally, this has been on my goals for 2 years. I bought my podcast microphone literally in 2018.
Well, you're crushing the goals. You're just check.
Yeah,
So,
thank you. I appreciate
killing it.
that. Yeah. Speaking of, so where has life taken you, since my first question, how has life been and how has life evolved for you since actually filming Love is Blind? So I know it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Good question, because I think a lot of people, just figure that when the show came out in March of 2020 that, we had just wrapped. But, actually we wrapped in November of 2018. So super disappointing experience for me, obviously. I was really hoping to, find the love of my life and kind of move on from there. Didn't happen for me, as everyone knows. So I took some time with myself, and for me, that was the healthiest thing to do at the time. Just spend some time alone. I was, probably isolating myself a bit more than anyone should, but I was definitely just, dealing with a lot of emotions and just the angst of what this could all be for my life. And so I, went through maybe 6 months where I was really isolating myself and just really struggling mentally. And I decided to move back home, and I was able to do that, with my job, which was such a godsend. And when I moved home, I, really started to just feel empowered, just being around my family again. It had been, 10 years since I'd been around my family, and, seeing a lot of friends from childhood and things like that, and spending time with them. So I actually, signed up to run the Chicago Marathon, and which is something I never thought I would do. And I felt like I kind of took my power back when I went and froze my eggs, because I thought, hey, I don't want to rush something, just because I know I want a family. I really want to give myself a bit of an insurance policy and really work on myself right now. So during that time, I was training for the marathon. I went through that process with IVF, and it was really great. And then the final goal that I had for myself, and not final in my life, we always should have
Right.
goals that we're reaching for, but the biggest thing that I always wanted to do that was on my bucket list was to move out to LA. And it had nothing to do with the show or anything like that, but I was in a position with work where I could do that. So after I spent the time at home, I came out here, and it's really been a dream come true. And obviously once I was out here, the show came out, and that kind of changed things, and I think we'll talk a little bit about that. But that's really been kind of what I've been up to for the last what's been 2.5 years now, almost, since the show wrapped.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So quite a bit's happened.
Yeah. For everybody.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely, just relate with what you said about the first 6 months, just kind of your, mental health, just being in a different place. I mean, we went through the craziest experience, not to say it was forced situations, but it's we were, our relationship was on speed. I mean, we all got super close, very vulnerable, had these, intense conversations with our person. Some of those conversations, I think people that have been in relationships for 3 years have never had, or not to the depth that we may have gone. I know for Kenny and I, we went pretty depth with a lot of our conversations. So I'm not sure about you and Mark, but regardless, just the process, the, our like one-on-one interviews, all of that. I mean, it was like so stimulating and aggressive at the same time. I cried like every day.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Same. And it was a matter of 47 days that you're really, getting to know someone on steroids,
Yeah.
essentially, and asking the big questions and, really deep diving into faith, which for me, I was baptized back in 2016. It was kind of like a big turning point in my life. And, I never had been baptized as a kid. So I really wanted to work on my relationship with God and all of that. And, for the first time with a guy, I was talking about those things and, my spiritual life. And for me, that was really kind of earth shattering. So it was pretty wild. The things that, one, you kind of felt free to ask, right? Because even the producers were giving us these questions to ask. And I'm like, I've never asked anyone this in my life. Like, how are you going to raise your kids?
Right.
It's like very intimidating question to ask someone you're dating.
Right.
But it was kind of, that was kind of table stakes in this situation. We were asking the big questions and it was kind of awesome, right?
Yeah.
Because you're really getting to know someone and you don't have those fears.
Right.
The walls were really down and it was really a fearless experience. And it was just kind of like, if it worked, it worked. And if not, that was too bad. But it was cool to be part of that experiment. And now, on the other side of it, and you're like back in the dating world. And again, it's like hard to ask those questions still. It's like I find myself, I'm like, all right, now I've been through this before and I see how it can work and you can waste a lot of time when you don't ask the questions up front.
Absolutely.
So it's a really great thing.
Yeah. Has it this is probably a multi-part question, but like, okay, so obviously you are in a relationship right now with Mr. Amazing Dr. Ben. And I had the pleasure of meeting him. He's fabulous. For the 5 minutes that I met him. He was great. No, it was longer. That was like 45 minutes. But no, but I'm super happy for you guys. And with that being said, like, I mean, have you been able to have those conversations? Although that fear pops back up, have you been able to have those conversations faster with him? And do you feel like that's what has allowed your relationship to grow deeper, I guess, at a faster rate, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the interesting thing about our relationship is he saw my whole journey play out. So he kind of like knew me already before he, slid into the DMs. And yeah, I mean, we definitely, so it's kind of twofold. So one thing that I took away from the experience was that I definitely want to take my time in a relationship.
Yeah.
And, rather than, forcing myself into something and just praying that it works out and, committing up front. And, for me, that's not going to be a successful story. I really wanted to take my time and really get to know someone. Right. And that's what we've been doing. We've really been taking it a day at a time. That works best for us. Mm-hmm. And I think, in our situation, we live 2 hours apart. We spend a lot of weekend time together. So a lot of times we're doing things and, for us, it's spending time experiencing things together, and that like really grows our connection. And so that's been really good. But,
that's awesome. Yeah. I love that. Within the first few days, when we were like in pod life and stuff, like I know the both of us had journals with us and we would journal at night. Do you remember journaling?
Oh, yes.
I love that. I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly like I had brought a journal with me too. Yep. I would say like once we were like revealed, to our fiancés and stuff, like I didn't necessarily keep up with it every day after that, but
Right.
I still like, maybe like once or twice a week I would like write some
Yeah.
stuff down. But
Yeah.
during pod life, you know, like can you think back to maybe one of your like journal entries in a sense, like something stood out for you that you wrote down?
Um, yeah. I mean, so I've gone back through these this journal multiple times because I'm like, what was I thinking? Where was my head at? Um, so there's multiple things, but it's like ultimately, because obviously, when I didn't have the feelings for Mark that I hoped I did, and that I had communicated to him earlier on in the pods, it was really tough. It was super disappointing for me, you know. But when I go back into the journal entries, it's like the amount of love I felt for him was unbelievable, right? And I think though it was because everything that we were experiencing it was on another level
Yeah.
that you can't really explain. You're totally ripped from the world. You don't have access to anyone. And you're thrown into this experiment and you're talking to these guys, and there's no sense of normalcy. So when you have a connection, it feels so much bigger than I think in a normal reality it would be.
Yeah.
My feelings were so intense, Cal. Like the things I write, I'm like, I don't even remember feeling that,
Wow.
but I was just like, I am just so, 100%, this is my person, this is my human. This is everything I have ever dreamed of, and this is it
Yeah.
for me. And which is really crushing to know that like days later, I did not feel that way anymore.
Right.
Unfortunately, but I'm so glad I kept those notes because I know, exactly how I was feeling during that time and kind of why I did some of the things I did. But I still journal to this day. And by the way, like those journal entries will become a book for me
Yeah.
someday. I mean, it's really interesting stuff, a lot of detail in there that
Yeah.
I think people would be interested maybe in knowing
I love that.
certain things that happen. But yeah, I still journal every morning if I can. Just kind of where I'm at, how I'm feeling, and I find that I function better throughout the day if I kind of get my thoughts and emotions out of the way and
Same.
put it all to paper.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge
I also
journaler.
have great penmanship.
I love that. I don't. Mine looks like chicken scratch.
Really?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. I don't know what, I would say in high school, maybe I had decent handwriting, but like ever since, I think it's honestly technology. Like, because I'm not like, I'm like texting or whatever all the time.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, granted, I write a lot now too, and I have for a while. But I mean, my parents, they're like, Jesus, like you and your sister have the worst handwriting for girls. Like, and my mom has like beautiful handwriting. I'm like, I don't know.
Does
My
she?
cramps up. It's weird.
Well, they grew up writing cursive and things like that. So.
Yeah, it's true. And they didn't really have cell phones to be texting and all that either. So
Yeah.
my hands just wig out. But
That's true.
But how long have you been journaling? Like you didn't start with the show. You had been doing it prior to, right?
Yeah. I started journaling. So, one of my best friends, Laura,
Yeah.
she's always done it. She introduced me to Mindful Morning
Yeah.
by Hal Elron several years ago.
Mhm.
When you wake up, you do something physical.
Yeah.
You kind of write down what you're thankful for, and you journal out your visions and things like that. So I started doing it probably 5 or 6 years ago when she turned me on to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That's
And
exactly the book that I started journaling. Like I read that book and I
he's
was
so
like,
great.
yeah, so great.
Yeah, he's great. And I find that, so I have a lot of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that if I can journal my thoughts, that's
Yeah.
the best way to kind of, you know, um, feel things without kind of keeping it bottled up.
Yeah.
Um,
I love
and it's a great way to, like, I always say, like, you got to be your own best friend,
that. Mm-hmm.
right? It's a great way to enhance that friendship and love that you have with yourself, to
Totally.
write things down and, help yourself memorialize things that are happening in your own life, and allow yourself to feel, because I think a lot of times as women, and I think a big theme of the show that some people caught on to is just like, we can feel, like, we're allowed to have feelings.
Yeah.
When we experience things, we're allowed to have feelings. And sometimes I think, especially women in the certain career fields and things like that, like, we want to hold back so much emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So, for people who feel that way, it's really good to write it down on paper, and it's really a conversation with yourself,
Absolutely.
which can be really therapeutic.
Totally. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's, as you know, that's kind of like the thing that I coach women on, is just the fact of like, we tend to like bypass our emotions, bypass what we're, feeling and thinking. And, really just by doing that, we really do go into like a burnout stage, because we're constantly just going and going and doing things that are making us avoid actually tapping into our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and really
Absolutely.
communicate with ourselves. And yeah, as you said, like from the show, that was like communication was so key. Obviously, we couldn't see the person. We
Hmm.
had to communicate. And I feel like our best moments were when we were very vulnerable with each other and we were allowing ourselves to feel and holding space for the story from the other person. I mean, there were so many guys who were very open, cried, I heard them on the other side of the wall, like shedding the tears and stuff too. And it was so cute,
Yeah.
it was like the sweetest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's like one thing that's like so, um, like just, what am I trying to say? Like shunned, I guess, or shamed, is like men even just like opening up and being vulnerable. Like, you need to be the
Sure.
tough, like you're supposed to be a tough guy. Like, no, like that is actually just like stripping men away from their feelings, and men are allowed to feel too. And I think
Yeah.
that that was so cool and powerful that we got to experience some of that on the show as well. Like,
Yeah, it's funny. So Ben was texting me a lot of like the crying face emojis this past week.
uh
Then he's like, "No more crying face emojis. I got to be a man." And he sent me like all the really manly emojis. I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
Jeez. Aw.
But it's true that, I think they do have this feeling of, don't be vulnerable, especially people guys who've been through a lot,
Yeah,
don't want to let their walls down, got to stay strong and, keep moving. And I think, men and women and,
totally.
whatever your situation is.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what do you think? Like, how has your faith and your self love grown since the filming? But also, like, since Love Is Blind actually aired.
Yeah. Um, I think two totally separate things. I think since filming, I, got myself out of a really kind of tough position, and I've been a serial monogamist in my life for so long, and just going from one 3-year relationship to the next.
Yeah,
And I pivoted, at some point, and really established my relationship with God and got really involved in my church and things like that. And you kind of see a ripple effect when the show wraps, going to Chicago and doing the things that I never thought I would do, and really kind of setting myself up for down the road. But all of that kind of came crashing down, where I was at, feeling on top of the world, and, having moved out to California. And I was in just a really good place and happy and healthy. And, when that show came out, I'll never forget when I landed at the airport and I, saw a glimpse into what the next, 6 months of my life would be like. And um, it was really awful, and like I would never wish it on my worst enemy. Um, and at first, I even had a work trip that I had to go to. So I went to Chicago for the premiere, and then I flew to Atlanta for the reunion. And
Mhm.
then I had to actually go to Vegas,
Mm.
and I had a conference there. And I'll never forget when I walked into my room in Vegas, I like collapsed on the floor, and my head like hit this like concrete thing. I didn't even feel it. I couldn't even like, I just felt like my life was over. And I'll never forget, I was just looking out, like, and it was Vegas, and I'm just, at the top of this hotel looking out, just like, my life is over. Everything I've built, my reputation, my career, like my, these strong relationships I have with my family and my friends, like I felt like everything was going to come crashing down, but in that moment, I felt like it was like the end, and I reached out to Netflix and asked for them to get me counseling, because I knew I needed, some sort of guidance throughout this.
So
Like,
good.
how do I get to tomorrow? You know? So I really did feel like it was the end for me. But what I didn't know was like there was so much good that was coming out of this, because my relationships with my family, my relationships with my friends, like my circle got smaller for sure, but like the relationships just, you can't imagine like um, being there to support a friend when the whole world like hates them, it's like really what was happening. And my friendships got so strong, and I started going into counseling, which I had done some counseling in the past, but it really became like a tool for me.
Awesome.
And they were giving me a lot of things to do daily to get me through. And then I can kind of get to the other side and really see see exactly what it is, right? This is a show for entertainment. I was a character in the show, and I can appreciate the characterization that was made of me, and that's exactly what I look at it as. I know that's not me, that's not a reflection of me and the love that I have for myself, because at the end of the day, like that's the most important thing, right? Like I know my truth, and I know my heart, and most importantly for me, it's like going to bed at night. Like if I can go to bed at night and feel like I was honest, there's nothing that's going to come out about me or anything like that, then I'm okay. So in the end, like, of course, up front, I felt like my life was over, and I didn't know if I was going to live, honestly. Like I didn't know, like, how will I live tomorrow? Like it was absolutely devastating. It was like my like people I idolized on TV were just absolutely like shaming me, and it was just like your worst nightmare. But now, like on the other side, I feel so much stronger. I've had a lot of opportunities, and the biggest thing for me is like people saw this character being really imperfect and fucking up and not knowing, really what they wanted. And a lot of people share their stories with me, like, thank you for going through that in front of the world, because that was something that I needed to see for whatever reason at that time in my life. And so for me, that's the biggest thing, because I've always prayed to God that, like, use me, because I've always felt like, why am I, what is my purpose? What's my bigger purpose? And I've always prayed to God, like, use me, show me how you can use me, like, let me know how you're going to use me. And like, I never thought it would be this way. But when I was having like one of the lowest moments, I went to the Bible, and the Bible said, if the world hates you, it hated me first. And I felt like he was only could be talking to me, and like, it was just such a huge moment. And then like I knew like he did use me, and that has felt fulfilling. And like the stories that people have shared with me, that's kept me going. And if I had to do it again, I would, because of some of those stories.
Right.
So long-winded answer to say, like, it's been quite the evolution. But at the end of the day, like, I love myself. I know who I am. And that's the biggest thing. People will say things, still in messages sometimes. And it's like very easy if you're having an off day to look at yourself and think, oh, you are a snake. How could you, but if you really know who you are and you love yourself, like that's all you have at the end of the day. And like, that's what's gotten me through. And It's been quite the journey, but I can say I'm much stronger on the other
Yeah.
side, and I know, who's in my corner, and my relationships are more important than ever, and most importantly, like my relationship with God.
Yeah.
So
I love that. You're so right. I mean, I've never been like a super religious person, and it was funny because like my entire like adolescence to adult life, I always would be like, oh yeah, I'm like more of a spiritual person than I am religious. I like remember myself
yeah.
telling people that, like, oh, and then I was like, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. And it was funny because like
Well,
as you were talking about, just like the miracle morning, mindful morning, like
mhm.
I was like, okay, so obviously to our listeners, it's like it creates your day. Like you spend whether it's 6 minutes or an hour with yourself, you like non-negotiable, you spend that time with yourself. And doing that, following that, practicing that me time every day, I was just I felt so much more like love on the inside and so much worthiness and all this. And I read something one day and it was like another Instagram post, but this girl was talking about that she used to be like a like deacon, like at the church, in the Catholic church and everything. And she's like super spiritual, woo woo, like energy healer now and stuff. And
Okay.
but it was just like really fascinating. I was like, wow, I could relate to her story so much because I was raised Catholic myself. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, and like now, like I feel like with the mindset work that I've done and just like the personal development in general, like I am so much more spiritually connected to the source, to God, to universe, like whatever we want to call it. This is spirituality. Like I totally like know what that is now. Whereas before, like I said, I was like, I just didn't know. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm not really religious, but I'm like just more spiritual, I
Right.
guess.
Well,
But
I think it's intimidating too, right? Because
yeah,
I didn't grow up religious at all, and
right. I didn't either.
I didn't grow up trusting and believing in God or really in anything.
Right. Totally.
So then you get to a certain point, and it's like, well, I don't know anything about that, so you feel kind of intimidated to take that leap. But for me, it was huge jumping into a small group and talking to people about that. And I think what you're doing is so amazing because you're talking about it, right? And you're
Yeah.
taking away. Um, what I think is so great that you're doing is you're allowing people to, really open up to new opportunities to have faith in something and to, grow in whatever they want to put their hope and faith in. So I
Mhm.
think it's really awesome what you're doing, Kyle.
Thank you.
Because a lot of people I do think have insecurities around, learning new practices, or opening themselves up to new ideas to
Mhm.
make their everyday life better.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. We
Hmm.
and we do, and a lot of that does stem from the fears, from past, whether it's a lot of it stems from like inner child and like just like former like child wounds and then like relationship wounds and all of that and like rejection and whatnot.
Yeah.
And when we don't show up as our best self, and that's why like going deeper into your spiritual practice by creating me time, like it's so necessary in this world. I mean, I just think so much of our health issues, whether it's physical health, mental health, all of that would just like start to, decline if we all just like started tuning more inward than externally projecting all of our crap all the time.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All
Exactly.
those trolls on social media. Y'all need to do
I
some
think
self-love work.
for sure. I wonder how much of it is people just not having time,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Especially right now, I think people are working multiple jobs and
Hmm.
carving out 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, write some things down or
Yes.
do a meditation or something like that, which I love how I just threw that out. I've never meditated in my life,
Hey, now we
but
can
I know
start.
it works well for some people.
That's funny.
Yoga, whatever.
No, it's true. I mean, like the other day, like yes, I try and practice my like miracle morning like all the time, every day. But there are, I mean, I'm human too. There are some days I just like I stay up kind of late and I have to get up early, and I don't have time, or I don't make time for the hour, or I'm like, okay, my sleep's more important. So whatever.
Right.
But having just even at like 5 to 10 minutes of me time before I like start the day, it really does help me get a little bit more grounded and like recentered and stuff. So I'll go on YouTube and just like type in like 2-minute meditation, 2-minute like affirmations, whatever. And I listen to it. I just sit there and I'm just still with myself, still with my thoughts. And I may like journal out like 3 things I'm grateful for. And it's like a matter of 5, 6 minutes has gone by. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
everybody can create 6 minutes in their day.
Yeah. And it's a great start to your day.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It's such a nice place. Okay, so this is interesting. This was an interesting thought I thought about.
Oh God, Cal, what?
No, it's well, when you were saying earlier, I like pre-wrote out some questions, but when you were saying earlier that you kind of like went from like one relationship to another relationship, you know, after the filming of Love is Blind, like did you date? I mean, granted you were working on yourself during that time, but did you like how long was it until you actually did date or go on even a date, like even subject yourself to like love?
Yeah. Actually, it was a while.
Yeah.
It was a while before I went on a date. And actually, I didn't even go on a date until I was about to leave Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, of course, when I was about to leave Atlanta, I actually met this really incredible guy who I really liked. And I just couldn't, I mean, I was leaving. I had to. And he wanted me to stay, and it was super sad. But yeah, I hadn't really dated a lot because I was really memorializing what had just happened, and being engaged to me was a huge deal. To jump into another relationship after that, I can't imagine what issues I would have been bringing into that.
Totally.
Obviously, I needed to do a lot of healing and self work and things like that, and that's exactly what I did. So yeah, I would say it was like, you know, it was probably 6 to 8 months, something like that. And then when I got to Chicago, it was a lot of just a lot of fun. You know, I was not trying to like be serious or anything like that. And it was really because I knew I didn't want to stay. So I kind of took the pressure off, and just had fun and kind of upfront with people that I wasn't looking for anything.
Right. That's good.
At that time. So
yeah.
When did you date?
That's awesome. So let's see. I would say.
Can I ask you questions? Is this allowed? Like,
yeah, you can ask me questions too. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Totally. People can. Yeah, they're probably like, yes, Kelly, talk. Spill the beans. Yeah, I mean, I went on my like first date, like maybe like right before. No, it was like right after the holidays. So we finished filming November, like 15th or whatever. Like I probably went on my first date, like the beginning of January. The beginning or middle of January is when I went on my first date. But I had already been working like a month and a half. I mean, it was probably like, like the beginning of December. Beginning of December, middle of December, I had started working with the mindset coach. And like, it's just really profound. Like, whether you're working with a therapist, mindset coach, life coach, whatever, like how fast they can have you have a breakthrough and like really like get you to a different place, like in a matter of like a second. Like I had multiple breakthroughs, like within literally in the first 4 weeks that I was working with this girl. So I felt so much better. And in that time, like 2 weeks after working with her, I remember like, it had only been like maybe a month since like me and Kenny had like, not seen each other and stuff. And in that moment, I remember like my mom was so like sad for me because I was such in a heartbroken space. And I remember having a conversation with her one day and she was like, have you heard from him yet? And I was like, no. Like I would say it almost like she would ask me like every day. I'm like, no, I still haven't heard from him, blah, blah. And then I remember her asking me one more time and I was like, Mom, I'm okay. Like, I'm okay. I was like, I had a session with Aaron. Like, I wasn't in love with him. And I knew that. Like I was loving the man that I was getting to know, but that's obviously why I couldn't say yes at the altar. I had questioned myself before, like the week before the wedding. I was like, he's checking all the boxes. Like, why wouldn't I marry him, you know? But I was like, something's not connecting. And that was like the gut instinct, like, this isn't the time. Like, it's not the time.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, my mom, I was like, Mom, I wasn't in love with him. Honestly, I think why I've been so upset is because I got rejected again. And the pain was actually from the rejection, not because I lost Kenny.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. And I
That's
was like,
huge.
yeah. And I was like, I'm okay. Like, of course, yes, I still had like feelings for him and everything. And of course I would have wanted it to work, us to work out at the time. But
Yeah.
I was not in a place for a relationship. And, you know, aerial view on things, like I've told, you know, you and others, it's like, yeah, I had written him a letter and all this stuff. And I wish that I had never done that, but that's where I was in that moment, you know?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter now. But I was like, well, if I had maybe waited a month before like really like reacting versus responding, I probably would have been like, I'm okay. You know what? And he was right. Like he has a lot of self-awareness. I was like, you know what? We both did need to like just chill, create some space in between us. And I think like even more so like now where I'm at in my life, I'm like, space is like my like huge word. I'm like, space is
It's a friend.
space for like healing. Like we can just do so much when we create space in between things. But yeah, so I like went on my first date though, probably in like January. And I remember telling the guy, he told me on the second date that he was like, I got out of an engagement recently. My fiance had been cheating on me. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I was like, and I kind of made light of the situation because I was like, oh, I was engaged recently too. Totally different story, but yeah.
Yep.
But he was like, what? And so I think that was like the first like stranger I'd like told, you know, about the whole show and stuff. But anyways, yeah, I remember like that moment so clearly. I like looked at the dude and I was like, I've been a fixer my entire life. I am no longer available for that. I was like, you are not in a place for a relationship. And he was like, what? I was like, you're not. I was like, the woman that you've been with for a few years cheated on you. First, that's like a trauma. Second, she just broke your heart. And like, it's only been a month and a half. You're not healed. Trust me, you're not. And he was like, okay, well, like, can we still hang out? You're pretty cool. I was like, totally. And we are still friends to this day. It's been 2 years, like, or almost 2 years. Like, we are still friends to this day. And it was funny because like a couple months later, like we both kind of like distanced ourselves, you know, just because I was like, I'm not into this dude like that. Like I'm not trying to be involved with someone who I'm not here to fix them. So I just like quit texting him and stuff. And I was just like working on myself still. And then he like reached out like one day, a couple months later and was like, you were so right. He's like, the reason why I haven't reached out, because he didn't reach out to me either. He was like, the reason I haven't reached out is because I like went into a really dark space and I was not okay. He's like, so thank you for like not pursuing me because I wouldn't have been able to show up, you know, the way that you would have deserved. And I was like, no, I appreciate, you know, thank you for telling me that. But yeah, I mean, I probably didn't get like, I didn't start a relationship though until like mid-April. So November to April, I guess it had been like 5.5, 6 months too.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you for weeding out the guys who just aren't ready. You know, it's like really hard to do, you know, but you got to meet somebody where they're at.
No, you do. You definitely do. And, you know, to speak to that, I know I've like talked about this, you know, a little bit on my Instagram and stuff too. It's just like, I did like the guy who I dated in April. I mean, we went off and on for a while and I know, you know, about that story. It was a friend of mine. So this was like such a harder situation because like all of a sudden it was like this man who I've known forever and ever and ever. I'm like, of course we're going to get married. Like he knows everything about me my whole life. Like, why wouldn't we, you know? So it was kind of like, I definitely created stories in my head, you know, of like maybe where our relationship was and it wasn't there. And, you know, we had a lot of ups and downs and obviously it didn't pan out. But speaking of like being ready, he wasn't ready and he did communicate that with me. But I recognized so much over the last year, like where some of my like deeply rooted stories and like wounds, I guess, from the past showed up again. Like for me to like, I couldn't do what I did to that other guy. I couldn't be like, go fix your shit. Like, I'm not available for this. Like, once you get your act together, come back to me if you want, you know, if I'm still available. I didn't do that. And I think it's because of the fact we have been friends for so long. I'm like, I don't want to lose this guy in any way, you know? And granted, now we haven't spoken in 4 months. So,
oh no.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't leave on bad terms. Like we still have so much love and respect for each other, but we both like had a very mature conversation. Like, I'm not showing up as my best self. It became, like I was saying earlier, like you get to this point of like burnout. Like you're constantly trying to do the things and you're doing and going. And if like, it needs to be just more effortless, and it wasn't. And he knew that. And it was like giving him anxiety. Cause he's like, Kelly, like, I love you to death, but like, I'm not ready for you. Like, I can't give you what you deserve, and you deserve better than what I can give you right now. So like, we just have this mutual conversation about like, we have to like, unfortunately, like as much as we didn't want to, we had to cut ties to like preserve whatever possible future friendship that we could have. I don't know. I mean, if the stars align for us to be in each other's lives again, then that's what will happen. But I really had to like tap into like, you know, leaving it up to God and like just surrendering to the plan that is supposed to be.
Absolutely. And he was a great friend in that scenario, I think, because I think it takes a lot for someone, you know, especially if you're with you're having a romantic relationship with your best friend. Great. You're hanging out with your number one person and probably getting everything you need out of it. Right. But you know that, you know, the other person's needs aren't getting met, to be able to admit that and walk away, I think, you know, is noble.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people would stay in and continue wasting your time, you know, and he didn't do that. So I think it shows he was a good friend in that situation, unfortunately.
I agree.
You never know when those things come back around. And the good thing is like leaving on good terms, and, you know, the fact that he did do what was right for you. You never know when those come back around, Cal.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Yeah, we're in a good place. I just am, you know, I'm definitely just so much happier. You know, a part of, like, there's just so much more like inner peace, because again, it was exhausting. Just freaking show up for me the way I need you to. Yeah. Why is it so hard? But yeah, there's been a lot of peace, me fully stepping into my boundaries. I mean, I definitely will never accept anything less than ever again, you know? But yeah,
I love it.
It was interesting. What do you feel has been like your biggest lesson that you've learned since like being in quarantine?
Oh, since quarantine. I thought I was about to say no more red wine, but
well, yeah, I actually had that. I was gonna talk about that. Yeah, you're not drinking anymore, right?
I mean, I'm not like
drinking.
I'm not like drinking crazy amounts in social settings. Like, I'm a big social drinker, I think. Like, I've always drank more than I've expected or planned to drink in social settings. So put a dozen cameras around me, and that became like that times 100. It's like one of those things, like I would try to put my drink in my left hand, because if your drink's in your dominant hand, you're just like cup to face. Because I get a lot of anxiety. I'm actually an introvert. Like, I get a lot of anxiety in social settings and being around people, especially new people. So I think, you know, that's played into kind of over drinking. And so definitely, you know, not doing that anymore. So
that's good.
Yeah, that's a good thing. What was the other question?
Just like if you've like what if you've had like any like lesson, like eye-opening, awakening kind of moment
since quarantine. I think just blessings. You know, like, it's a blessing to go out and have dinner with friends, and it's just the little things that I think we always took for granted. Hopping on a plane to go see my family. You know, I literally will not be able to see my grandma when I go next week. I'll see her through a window. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just like really counting my blessings. And especially once this world goes back to normal, it's just like, I don't think any of us will take things like that for granted anymore. Being able to hug our elderly family and even be around immunocompromised family and friends. And, a lot of people are isolated right now and not able to see others. There's a lot of folks dying alone.
Right.
It's terrible. So I think everyone is just counting blessings and, I think wishing that we never took certain things for granted. So I'm just
Absolutely.
trying to do a better job of making everyone feel loved. And I think right now, especially, much more sensitive time for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So, really trying to be there as much as I can for friends and family and even strangers on the street. You don't know what they're going through. And
Totally.
um, just definitely being sensitive to all of that and
Yeah,
counting blessings.
absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah. I mean, so we were talking about earlier before we started recording, just like me like going into to work like every other day, and I was just like, I think I'm just gonna have to like take some PTO and just call
You
it a
should.
day so that I can just like not have to necessarily worry about risking. Because I mean, I'm gonna get like a rapid COVID test before I go home for Christmas, but like still, if I was exposed, it doesn't like show up the same day on the test, so,
Yeah.
or I don't know if it
Yeah.
does. So I would just rather like not. It's like,
Right.
is it worth it to like have like PTO next year? I mean, I'll have PTO next year, but like have it roll over and have more days next year. No, like I would rather just go spend time with my family now, you
Yeah.
know?
And it's better to err on the side of caution
Yeah,
in these
exactly.
times.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you on that. I know it was like interesting, like buying Christmas gifts this year. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, we've like trimmed down the amount of like we give each other like, maybe 2 gifts each or something. Like it's not like a
Yeah.
big Christmas anyways. There
Yeah.
hasn't been in the last few years, but just being around each other. I know my mom definitely like misses me being at home with her. I mean, especially like I didn't work for 2 years, like not like in an office, like I worked for myself for 2 years. So like I was able to just go home if I wanted to and things like that. So she definitely misses that. I'm like, I'm trying to get back there,
Oh,
mom.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to do that, but I don't know. So
That'll be good. That'll be good though.
yeah.
Get home are you gonna stay home for a little bit then?
Yeah, I think through the new year, I'll stay home like
But
through
they're
that.
just down the street, basically,
Yeah, they're like an hour away. So it's not
compared to my
right.
situation.
I
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 So
That's great though. That's so nice.
yeah. And we're the only family that we have here in Georgia. So it's just my immediate family. So
Oh, great.
yeah. So it's just mom and dad and my sister. So it'll be nice. But yeah. What I know that you like ride bikes all the time. I always see you on your Instagram like going on little
Yeah.
adventures. What
Yeah.
would you say is like your like just things to do for fun to like add like play and pleasure and just having a good time into your life? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. Anytime I can go, explore with Peyton, I love just watching her, sniff around and she's loving life and there's something therapeutic about that.
Yeah.
Um, but Ben and I will go, ride our bikes together and that's a lot of fun. He does a lot of hiking, so he's turned me on to that.
Nice.
And then recently, 'cause I'm a big team sport person, and I love like actually playing sports to get exercise for the day. So I never have played volleyball before, but I'm in like one of the
Yeah.
biggest epicenter for volleyball basically.
Right.
Um, so I recently started taking up volleyball lessons, which for me was huge because I hate being bad at things,
Yeah.
especially sports. And I never knew what I was doing. So now I'm learning all the techniques and we go out there in the mornings and it's a lot of fun and makes me feel like an athlete again, which is nice.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's a
That's
lot of
so
fun. And of course, being here in LA, it's like yoga everywhere, and
yeah.
any type of outdoor activity you want to do, which seems to be pretty safe from what they're saying. So,
Yeah.
just getting outside and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And then Ben and I, we've watched about 100 different series. He lives 2 hours away, but we'll like always have one or two TV series that we're watching together, which means that we just like watch and then we like text about it,
That's cute.
which is kind of
So
funny because it's like opposite from the pods. It's like we're actually getting zero connection time, but it's just super fun that we've
yeah.
done since like day one. So
Aw, I love that. I love that. How do you
yeah.
feel? I don't know how to ask this question. I feel that obviously like what we do for ourselves lines us up for, manifesting people and things into our life. If we're like, if
Mhm.
we are acting in alignment with who we want to be, what we want to do, what we want to have, then as long as we're acting in alignment with that, then those things will come for us and effortlessly, So with all of the like self-care and self-love work that you did and continue to do, like how do you feel like Ben was like manifested in your life? Does he? And did you ever write, like
Yeah.
I've done this, I don't know if you have with all your journaling, but like I wrote out like dream man like characteristics. Like not that I'm
Yeah.
like it has to follow that, but it would be like really cool if it was like manifested to like this like perfect person.
Yes. Yeah, I actually had a therapist in Atlanta. I did that exercise with her. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's funny because as much as I've always been looking for a partner, like I've always been very career focused.
Yeah.
So, a relationship for me has always been kind of a secondary effort. But I think, more recently I have wanted that partnership, which, gave me the brilliant idea to go on national television in search of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think putting myself out there on Netflix was one, right?
Mhm.
Because that allowed him to see me. And then the Netflix gods just picked him up and, set him down in my Instagram inbox. But yeah, I think for one time in my life when that show came out, I wasn't looking for anyone. I didn't want
Mm.
a relationship. Wasn't something that was on the top of my mind because I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to clean up my image. I'm working, 50 plus hours a week and I'm in California. I'm trying to build friendships here. And it really was, one of the last things I was thinking about was bringing someone new into my life at
Right.
this point where, you know, my my entire character was on blast and my portrayal was awful and I'm just really feeling like my life is over. It's like not was not a time where I was thinking like, oh, I've got to go out and start dating. It was just like the last thing that I could have ever dreamed would have happened. But I think, yeah, it's really just putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
you know, because for me and for him, like he saw through that
Mhm.
portrayal and all of that. And once we met, it was just like history from there. Um, because we instantly connected and like you said, I had done the work to know what I wanted and no, it wasn't that rigid checklist that I had on Love is Blind. That was something that was more kind of like like you say trauma wounds and things like that where I'm like
Right.
you got to have this and this. That I look back at and I don't like what I see because that's not even me, that's
Right.
not even
Totally.
it's not even about that. I think you can have this checklist and the person can, be XYZ, but like love can come just crashing into your life. It'll just
Mhm.
wash you away. Like you could check every single box and like, the person that you fall in love with has, uh, been married previously and has children and all, these are not things that were necessarily on your checklist, but like when it's the right person and it feels like love and it's like it's never your checklist is never going to
Right.
be 100% accurate.
No, absolutely,
But I
absolutely.
think if you continue showing up and continue being courageous and continue putting yourself out there and being a good person and
Mhm.
all those things will come back to you. And particularly in this case when he did hit my Instagram DM inbox, a good friend of mine essentially swiped on him because she was managing my Instagram at that time. It was like not a place that,
Yeah.
I ever wanted to look. So she actually started talking to him
Mm.
like she was me
Oh, how funny.
and having a conversation and then gave him my number and that's where it all started. But if I hadn't, had that friendship, in which, I really value, one of my very best friends, and, built that friendship. Hey, it wouldn't have happened. So foster
Totally.
your friendships, and, don't be scared. Don't be scared to, you know,
Absolutely.
put yourself out there, and, something good will come, even during the darkest of times when you don't expect it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's,
You always
that's
have
kind
to.
of like the time that you weren't looking for it either, because you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I just gotta like weather this shit storm right now.
Yeah. Well, Cal, it's funny because you know how they're always like, it's gonna come when you least expect it. And it's
Yeah.
like, when am I gonna be least expecting it? I'm 36. Like, I don't want to expect it every day. And but this really was a time when I was like not into dating. I was not open to it. Like my whole life was like spoken for. Like I had to
Yeah.
fix all these things and work meanwhile and stay sane
Mm,
and like get from one day to the next. It just wasn't something that I was even looking for. And it ended up being like such a godsend.
yeah.
Because someone saw me in a positive light, and it helped me to, love myself more during that time, and
Totally.
ended up being exactly what I needed. So it's
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, One thing, so when the show aired, like I was still like working full time and like trying to just like be in the motion of everything too. I mean, like I had like turned off my notifications on my phone. Like I was like, I'm not like I
Hmm.
have to go into the apps to like be bothered by anything. And I was pretty good about like not reading too much of the stuff because yeah, I mean, like, people were Team Kenny, Team Kelly, and then
Yeah.
they were like Team Kenny all the way. So, I got a taste of what
Oh,
you
yeah.
probably experienced, a taste, like a 1/19th. But,
Yeah.
and people didn't like my decision, obviously, but I just
Well, people don't
overall,
know exactly what happened.
they
So
don't.
let's just put that out there.
Exactly. They don't know
I
what
do.
happened. Yes, you do. And I
Okay.
do too. Yeah, exactly. So, but I was like there were weekends like in a row that I was like so exhausted, like to the point I've never been exhausted before, like as if I hadn't gone to bed in 5 days. Like I
Wow.
would wake up, like I'd go to bed, at a decent time on like a Friday night. I'd wake up at like 10:30, 11, which I don't sleep in that. I like never do. And then I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I've had like 12 plus hours of sleep. I was still so tired, like as if I still didn't have sleep the night before. Like I was like, oh my God, like I'm like just the energy. And I know you know about this too, but like the energies of like the world just like coming, like, and although I wasn't physically around these people, it's like just the social media aspect of like all the
Hmm.
crazy energies going on. I was just like, they were sucking the life out of me. I was like, oh my God, I would go to like the park, which I mean, it took me like an hour just to get out of my house because I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And I would like put on
Of
like my
course.
clothes and like lay down and then like, okay,
Yeah.
then put on my shoes and like sit down for a second. But I would go and like lay in a park because, like just nature, higher vibration, whatever. I would go like lay and just lay on my yoga mat in the grass at a park. I was like, I can't do anything today. Like all the things I wanted to do, I
Yeah.
can't do. So I didn't know,
Yeah.
like, did you ever experience that, or did you just like kind of just keep going, pushing through?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, by the way, you're not exaggerating, because our reality show that we were a part of was literally one of the very first reality shows that actually was broadcast to the world.
Yeah,
It was in almost every country.
yeah,
So it's funny you say that, because it is like there was an energy. Just like if you get in your head for a minute and think about all the people that are probably like watching you or thinking about you at that moment. And it's something that's just unbelievable. It's out of
right,
this world experience.
yeah,
So yeah, I definitely know exactly what you felt on that. I was more of a just putting my head down and getting through it.
hmm,
More so than like I would do. I'm definitely like a legs up on the wall kind of person. I noticed that like shifts your energy if you can do that for 5 minutes.
true, yeah,
Um, and but otherwise, I was working 50 hours a week at the time, and
that's crazy.
um, I was really just not paying attention to it at all. I was like that, like Netflix was this swim lane, and this is like the Jessica character. And then like I'm over here and I'm Jess, right? I don't even go by
Right,
Jessica. Like I'm Jess, I'm in this swim lane right
right,
here. And like I just went, the channel was just taking me, and I was fine, honestly. Like after a
Good.
couple weeks,
Yeah.
I was fine. And like, you'll have like, I got a bunch of death threats and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So like some of those messages that I would see that would like get through to me, those would really test me. But
Totally.
otherwise I just kind of put my head down and did, you know, I
Yeah.
had my work was in this lane
Mm-hmm.
and my family was in this lane, and you know, everybody around me really deserve all the credit to keeping me just as normal as possible, and
Totally.
letting this be this piece of entertainment that like I was a part of, and you know, I've moved on from. So
Right.
I would say, you know, that was it. It was putting my head down and working hard, and stepping away
Yeah.
from it. I didn't give myself access to Instagram. I had
So
some
good.
really great friends who handled all that for me, and um, you know, so
So
it
cool.
was really just putting up a lot of boundaries,
Yeah.
not watching TV and not giving myself access to social media, and
Mm-hmm.
um, just staying as healthy as I could by keeping my head down, and um, being at work. Like, I know everyone at work watched it, but like nobody talked about it, so it's great. So it was just, I could just go back to my normal life, you
That's
know,
good.
and
They were afraid.
yeah, just like, Jessica who? Like,
We don't know her.
yeah, you didn't see it. It was like Men in Black. Like,
Yeah.
you did not see this.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah. And then me on the other hand, I'm like in cubicles and like everyone's like, so tell me about this, tell me about this. This is really
Oh,
happening. Blah, blah,
really?
blah. Yeah. I mean, it was fine.
Oh,
Like everyone
wow.
was like super cute. I didn't mind talking about things. Like I'm a very transparent person,
Yeah.
of course. But you know, like even I feel like maybe in the last like couple months, like there's been like some newer people join our team and they're like, can I, do you mind if I ask you about it? I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's fine now. Like, it's totally fine. I don't
Aw.
care. But,
Do
you
you
know,
get
it was a
recognized
cool
a lot
experience.
in Atlanta?
Sometimes, yes. I think because I mean, I've lost like 10 to 15 pounds since the show. So I think that just like, I have like a thinner face. Like, I think people don't necessarily recognize me too much.
Really?
Not to say like that weight is like a big thing, but
Yeah.
yeah. Or I think if I was like with you guys, like then they would be like, oh yeah,
Right.
Kelly, you know, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, I may get like the eye, like someone's like, I think that's her, but I'm not sure. But then other
Yeah.
times, yeah, like people will come up and they're like, oh my God, Kelly, like this girl a couple of weeks ago, it was like around Thanksgiving, I was at a restaurant and I had a mask on. So first of all, I think this girl had like, I had posted that I was there at this restaurant. So I'm like, the only way this girl knew that this was me is because she probably just saw it on my Instagram. Like,
Oh, yeah.
because it was like immediate, like it wasn't like a looking at me like for a second. It was like a
Yeah.
hey, you're Kelly from Love is Blind. And I had my mask on. I'm like, and a beanie. So it was like you could literally only see my eyes.
Wow.
How do you
Come
know
on.
it's me?
She was definitely on your Insta.
Yeah, it was so cute. But I mean, it's super humbling and I like, you know, it's
Yeah.
a really humbling kind of thing. I don't know. I love talking to people and meeting new people. So I think it's
People
a
are
cool
so
thing.
nice.
They are. Yeah.
No one's ever come up to me and said anything negative, ever.
Right. Punch
People
me in
are
the
always
face.
so sweet. And a lot of people, yeah, it's a lot of, hey, somebody's hungry. Sorry, somebody's hungry. I'm gonna give her food really quick. So what I've noticed, it's so funny because people will look at me, unless I'm with Peyton, my little co-star, and then they just know who I am. But if I'm just like out and about, people will be like, I know you. How do I know you?
Right.
I know you from somewhere. And then they'll be so off. And then like if they ever guess, they're just like, oh, you're that girl from that show.
Right.
They never know Love is Blind.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true.
I think most people know me from the memes. Which is sad.
Those were good ones. They had some pretty good ones out there.
There were some good ones. I'm not gonna lie. I laughed a few times.
Yeah. I think you sent me one once.
Did I? I don't
so.
care. I was just like jumping right in. It's like, whatever. It was just fun.
No, Oh my gosh, no, it was so good. Is there anything that you're like, I don't know, any goals for like 2021 that you're like working on? Anything, people can join your journey on?
Yeah. Really, 2021 for me is, just like I say, feeling blessed and, taking time for family and friends and things like that. And I've got some things coming up. I'm gonna be writing a book. A lot of that's gonna come from journal entries, like we talked about. Like that's gonna
Yeah,
come together
so awesome.
into a memoir. So I'll be working a little bit on that. I've got some other things kind of in the works. But yeah, I think, just being happy and healthy moving into 2021, taking it one day at a time, baby, because you never know, like, when your world will be set on fire.
Right.
No, just being, blessed to be happy and healthy and surrounded by good people and
Totally.
family, being healthy and all that. So
Absolutely. I
that's
love
really
it.
it. I'm not gonna be
Absolutely.
doing any big Insta collabs or anything like that. I don't think that's really my thing, Cal.
No?
No, I don't I'm not it's not my thing. It's funny. It's like you like get these followers and I don't know what to do with it. I just
Yeah.
kind of I like to post like emotional quotes. So
Yeah.
I'll do that sometimes. But yeah, not an influencer. Hashtag not an influencer.
Hey, that's okay. There's a journey for each of us, and
That's right. You're much better at those things, so I'm gonna let you do
well,
all
thanks.
that. So
I literally was somewhere the other day, and I was literally with these like influencer, like fashion influencer girls, and I was like, "Can y'all teach me your ways? Because I feel like I am sucking at this." Like, I was like, I feel like I just like don't know what to do, and they're like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I don't know. I don't know what I don't know what I don't know what to do. I just don't know." And they're like, I said, I don't know, y'all just like have like a thing about you. Like we like your poses, like everything is just so like, I don't
I'm the
know.
worst at that. I'm
I'm
the
like,
worst
I
at
don't
that.
know. I'm like, I wake up, I talk about a
So bad.
brand in my freaking PJs with no makeup on. Like, I mean, but that's the real me. That's who you're gonna get. Like,
Yeah. That's
you know?
yeah, that's great though. I mean, I see people commenting on your stuff all the time. It's like people want you to share raw experiences.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people are too insecure to share, who they really are and what they're feeling and things like
Yeah.
that. And, I'm definitely somebody that's, been afraid to share with the world anything anymore. You know,
Yeah.
so, and then you get kind of the highlight reel from me. It's like everything looks so happy and perfect, and it's
Yeah.
a struggle every day for a lot of us. So, I think when you can be raw and open up and talk about things that you've experienced and everyday struggles, people resonate with that.
Yeah.
Rather than just looking through happy, 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 happy.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
we all have struggles.
Yeah, we all do. We definitely all have struggles. And yeah, I mean, there's sometimes like fears that pop up for me. And I think I've just kind of like worked through it. I'm like, you know what, this is me and this is who you're going to get. And I think I just like, I always like bring myself back to the point of like, it doesn't matter like what I look like, how I'm going to sound. It's the message that I'm trying to like convey. And so, I just like
Absolutely.
my message is more important than like how I look or like how someone's going to perceive this. Like the ones who are going to
Yeah.
receive it well, that's who the message is for. So,
I love that. And I love that about you, that you're so authentic, but
mhm.
also you have this passion and fire about enabling others
Yeah.
to, live their best life.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you.
So keep it up.
Thanks, sister.
Proud of
Love
you.
it. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to wrap this up. Is there anything you want to share? Any last minute words of wisdom from
Oh
Jessica
man.
Batten?
Oh man. What would
Jess
I
Batten.
say? What would I say? Yeah, I just, wish everyone the best. Have a happy holiday and, count your blessings, and hopefully this will all be behind us soon.
Yeah.
And, I think for my story, if you feel like the world is crumbling around you and you can't go on, just know that, things will get easier. Just take it day by day and, look up and, whatever it is that you look for, in terms of hope and keeping your faith, just do that and you'll get through. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
Like Mark Grove says, it might pass like a kidney stone, but it will pass.
Right. I love him. Absolutely. And journal. We can all take up journaling right now too.
Journal. If
Yeah.
you need a calligrapher, I'm available.
There you go. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this today. And yeah, everyone go check out, what's your Instagram? Just in case they're not following you. Go follow her. She's really awesome.
I think I haven't posted anything in a month or so, but it's hashtag Jessica Batten, BATTEN.
At Jessica Batten. Got it. Okay. At Jess Batten, right?
Jessica.
Oh, Jessica. Oh, it is.
Is it? I think it's _ Jessica Batten.
_ Jessica Batten. Okay.
You could probably find me on Kelly's follower list somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. Just search there. Oh my goodness. Well, I love you. Thank you so much, honey.
So much, friends.